Is this really what Dad left us? My son discovers his dad's secret hectare of land. I'll never forget the look on my son Marcus's face when he stood in the middle of that overgrown field, holding his father's letter in one hand and a rusty key in the other, asking me the question that would change everything. Is this really what Dad left us? My name is Catherine Wright. I'm 42 years old, and 6 months ago, my husband Daniel died suddenly from a heart attack at 45. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, but every word is true. My 16-year-old son discovered that his father, the man we thought spent his entire life working a modest warehouse job, had been hiding a secret so big, so valuable, and so dangerous that people were willing to kill for it. Daniel Wright was not the man I thought I married. And the land he left us? It wasn't just land. It was a fortune, a mystery, and a target on our backs. Let me start at the beginning. Daniel and I met 20 years ago when I was a young nurse working night shifts at County General Hospital. He was a warehouse supervisor at Anderson Logistics, steady job, decent pay, nothing flashy. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. Marcus was born 2 years after we married, and life was simple. Bills got paid. We took one vacation a year. Daniel worked long hours, sometimes weekends, but he always said he was building something for our future. I never questioned it. Why would I? He was a good husband, a devoted father, and he never gave me reason to doubt him. Then came March 14th, a normal Tuesday. Daniel kissed me goodbye that morning, told Marcus to study hard for his chemistry test, and drove to work. 4 hours later, I got the call. Massive heart attack. Dead before the ambulance arrived. He was 45 years old. The funeral was small. Daniel didn't have many friends. He was private, kept to himself. His co-workers from the warehouse came, spoke politely, offered condolences. One older man, someone I'd never met, stood at the back during the entire service. Tall, silver hair, expensive suit. He never approached us, never introduced himself. Just watched. When I turned to point him out to Marcus, he was gone. 2 weeks after the funeral, the lawyer's letter arrived. Dear Mrs. Wright, regarding the estate of Daniel Marcus Wright, you are hereby notified that a sealed envelope has been designated for your son, Marcus Daniel Wright, to be opened on his 16th birthday or in the event of Mr. Wright's death, whichever comes first. Please contact our office to schedule delivery. Marcus had just turned 16 3 months earlier. The timing felt deliberate, planned. We went to the lawyer's office on a gray April morning. Marcus sat beside me, quiet and withdrawn. He'd barely spoken since his father's death, spending most of his time in his room or walking alone in the woods behind our house. Grief had hollowed him out, made him a shadow of the bright, curious boy he'd been. The lawyer, Mr. Pemberton, was elderly and formal. He handed Marcus a thick manila envelope with Daniel's handwriting across the front. For Marcus, when you're ready. Marcus's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, a set of keys, a hand-drawn map, and a legal document. The letter began, Son, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. What I'm about to reveal will seem impossible, but everything is real. Everything I did for you and your mother. Marcus read silently, his eyes moving faster across the pages. I watched his expression change, confusion, shock, disbelief, and then something else. Anger. He looked up at me, his voice breaking. Dad owned land. A whole hectare of land. In Kentucky. He's been buying it secretly for 15 years. I stared at him. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. A hectare? That's over 2 acres. Land like that costs $600,000. Mr. Pemberton interrupted gently. According to the deed, your husband purchased the property in increments over 15 years, paying cash. The final payment was made 3 months ago. Full ownership transferred to a trust with Marcus as the beneficiary. My mind reeled. $600,000? Daniel made $52,000 a year. We had a mortgage, car payments, student loans for my nursing degree. Where do you get that kind of money? Marcus continued reading aloud, his voice hollow. I know you'll have questions. I know your mother will be angry. But please go to the land. See it for yourself. Everything will make sense. Coordinates are on the map. Trust no one except Frank Sutherland. He's been helping me protect what I built. The key opens the gate. What's buried, there is yours now. Use it wisely. I love you both more than you'll ever know. Dad, buried, I whispered. What's buried? Mr. Pemberton cleared his throat. That's all the information I have, Mrs. Wright. The property deed is legitimate. The land is registered to the trust. As Marcus's legal guardian, you control access until he turns 18. Marcus stood abruptly, shoving the letter and documents into his backpack. We need to go there. Now. Marcus, wait. No, Mom. Dad left me something. He said it would make sense. I need to see it. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell him this was crazy, that we should investigate further, that charging off to Kentucky based on a cryptic letter was reckless. But I saw something in my son's eyes I hadn't seen since Daniel died. Purpose. We left for Kentucky the next morning. The drive took 8 hours. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, studying the hand-drawn map obsessively. It showed roads, landmarks, and terrain features marked with strange symbols. At the center was a property boundary marked with a star and the words, "The Foundation." Foundation of what? I asked. Marcus shook his head. I don't know. But Dad was really specific about these coordinates. He pulled out his phone, comparing GPS coordinates to the map. We're looking for a gate off Route 146, about 15 miles past Pineville. We stopped in Pineville for gas and directions. The cashier, a woman in her 60s, eyed us curiously when I mentioned Route 146. You folks going up to the right property? I froze. You know about it? She nodded slowly. Everybody round here knows about it. Your husband, that was your husband, wasn't it? He came through every few months for 15 years. Always bought the same things. Wore gloves, bottled water, energy bars. Paid cash. Kept to himself. She leaned closer. But I'll tell you something. About 6 months ago, some fancy folks from Lexington started asking about that land. Wanted to know who owned it, what was on it. Offered money to anyone who could tell them. Your husband must have known something valuable was up there. My unease deepened. Did he ever mention what he was doing? No, ma'am. But I'll say this, Daniel Wright was a good man. Helped my grandson fix his truck once. Didn't ask for a dime. Whatever he left you, I hope it's worth the trouble it's going to bring. We found Route 146 as the afternoon sun began its descent. The road narrowed to a single lane, climbing steadily into the Appalachian foothills. Dense forest pressed in on both sides. After 12 miles, Marcus pointed ahead. There, the marker Dad drew. A distinctive lightning-struck oak stood beside the road, split down the middle, but still alive. Exactly as Daniel had sketched it. Just beyond, a dirt path disappeared into the trees. We turned onto the path. Branches scraped the car's sides as we inched forward. After a quarter mile, we reached a heavy metal gate secured with a thick chain and padlock. A weathered "No Trespassing" sign hung at an angle. Marcus jumped out, clutching the key from his father's envelope. His hands shook as he fitted it into the padlock. It turned smoothly, the chain falling away. We drove through. The path opened into a cleared area, a full hectare of land carved from the surrounding forest. But what stopped us cold wasn't the size. It was what sat in the middle of the clearing. A structure, part greenhouse, part workshop, part something else entirely. Solar panels covered the roof. A sophisticated irrigation system snaked through organized garden beds. And everywhere were plants. Not regular plants. These were massive, meticulously maintained, organized in rows with scientific precision. The greenhouse walls were tinted, making it impossible to see clearly inside, but even from the exterior, I could identify dozens of different species. Marcus stepped out of the car slowly, his voice barely a whisper. Is this really what Dad left us? We approached the greenhouse entrance. Another lock, another key from Daniel's envelope. The door swung open, and we stepped into a world I never imagined. Inside, the air was humid and rich with the scent of earth and growing things. Temperature and humidity controls hummed softly. Automated misting systems sprayed at regular intervals. And the plants, my God, the plants. Medicinal herbs I recognized from my nursing background. Echinacea, St. John's wort, valerian root. But also rare botanicals I'd only seen in textbooks. ginseng, golden seal, black cohosh, and dozens of others. Each plant was labeled with scientific names, growth dates, and potency ratings. Marcus found a logbook on a workbench. He flipped it open, his eyes widening. "Mom, listen to this." Dad's handwriting. Year 1. Initial cultivation successful. Ginseng roots showing exceptional growth. Market value per pound, $600. Estimated first harvest, for years. Total investment to date, $40,000. He flipped ahead. Year 5. First harvest complete. Ginseng yield, 80 pounds. Market value, $48,000. Golden seal coming in strong. New species introduced. American ginseng, blue cohosh, trillium. Page after page documented Daniel's secret operation. 15 years of cultivation notes, harvest records, market research, and financial projections. Marcus looked up at me, his voice cracking. Dad was a farmer, a medicinal plant farmer. This whole time he was building this. I sank onto a wooden stool, trying to process it. Daniel had worked his warehouse job by day and tended this secret garden by night and on weekends. All those overtime shifts and weekend inventory projects. He'd been here building something extraordinary. But why keep it secret? Marcus asked. Why not tell us? I found the answer in a folder marked legal. Inside were articles about plant poaching, illegal harvesting of rare botanicals, and violent conflicts over valuable ginseng operations in Appalachia. One article was highlighted. Kentucky man murdered over $100,000 ginseng harvest. Daniel had been protecting us. If people knew what he was growing, we'd have become targets. Marcus moved deeper into the greenhouse, examining the plants with growing wonder. Mom, some of these species are almost extinct in the wild. Dad was cultivating them, preserving them. This isn't just about money, it's conservation. He was right. Another logbook showed Daniel's partnerships with university botany departments, sharing seeds and cultivation techniques to prevent extinction of rare medicinal plants. He'd been creating a genetic bank, a living library of Appalachian botanicals. There's more. Marcus pointed to a locked door at the greenhouse's rear. Dad mentioned something buried. Maybe it's through there. The third key from Daniel's envelope opened it. Beyond was a smaller room, climate-controlled and dimly lit. Wooden crates were stacked against the walls, each labeled with dates and botanical names. Marcus opened the nearest crate carefully. Inside, nested in protective packing, were dried ginseng roots, perfectly preserved, massive specimens that would command premium prices. We opened more crates. Each contained harvested botanicals, processed and stored with professional precision. The accumulated value represented years of careful harvesting, waiting for the right market conditions. This is a fortune, I whispered. Daniel grew this, harvested it. He built us a legacy. Marcus found an envelope taped to the largest crate. Inside was a handwritten note. Marcus, this harvest is ready for sale. Contact Frank Sutherland, number below. He knows buyers who will pay fair prices. Current estimated value, $340,000. This is for your college education and your mother's future. I'm sorry I couldn't see you use it. Made me proud. Dad! Tears streamed down my son's face, the first he'd shed since the funeral. He clutched the note to his chest. He did this for us. All of it. While we thought he was just working a regular job, he was building this. A noise outside froze us both. Vehicle engines. Multiple vehicles. We moved to the window. 3 trucks had pulled into the clearing, expensive pickups with out-of-state plates. 6 men climbed out, all wearing similar dark jackets. They weren't casual visitors. One man, tall with silver hair, pointed toward the greenhouse. I recognized him, the man from Daniel's funeral who had watched from the back. Marcus grabbed my arm. Mom, who are they? I don't know, but we need to leave. Now. We moved toward the rear exit, but voices at the back of the structure stopped us. They'd surrounded the greenhouse. Mrs. Wright, a voice called from outside. We know you're in there. We just want to talk. About buying the property. I looked at Marcus. His jaw was set, fear in his eyes, but also determination. He pulled out his phone. No signal. We're blocked. I scanned the greenhouse wildly, looking for anything useful. My eyes landed on Daniel's emergency supply cabinet. Inside, a satellite phone. I powered it on, hands shaking. One contact was programmed. Frank Sutherland. The answer on the first ring. Catherine, is it you? Yes. We're at the property. Men are here. 6 of them. They surrounded us. Frank's voice was urgent. Listen carefully. Go to the southwest corner of the greenhouse. There's a floor panel marked with a red X. Lift it. Underground passage leads 200 yards into the forest. Daniel built it for emergencies. Go now. I'm 30 minutes out. I found a panel, pulled it up. Below was a narrow tunnel, just wide enough for a person to crawl through. Emergency lights flickered on automatically. Marcus, go. Not without you. I'll be right behind you. Go. He dropped into the tunnel. I followed, pulling the panel closed above us. The passage was tight, claustrophobic. We crawled forward, emergency lights guiding us through the darkness. Behind us, we heard muffled crashes, the men breaking into the greenhouse. We emerged 200 yards away in a dense thicket, covered by camouflage netting Daniel had installed. Through the trees, we could see the greenhouse. The men were inside, searching methodically. Marcus and I huddled in silence, watching our father's life's work being ransacked by strangers. 15 minutes later, a battered pickup truck rolled into the clearing from a different direction. A man in his 60s climbed out, weathered face, steady eyes, moving with quiet confidence. Frank Sutherland. He approached the intruders without hesitation. You boys are trespassing on private property. The silver-haired man turned. This property is for sale. We're interested buyers. Property's not for sale, and you're speaking to the land manager. So unless you've got written permission from the right family, I suggest you leave before the sheriff arrives. Already called them. 5 minutes out. The lie was delivered with such confidence that the men hesitated. Silverhair studied Frank, calculating odds. Tell Mrs. Wright we'll be back, with a better offer. They left in their trucks, engines growling as they disappeared down the path. Frank waited until they were gone, then walked directly to our hiding spot. You can come out now. We emerged from the thicket. Frank looked us over with a sad smile. You have Daniel's eyes, son. He'd be proud of you both. Back in the greenhouse, Frank explained everything while making coffee on Daniel's small camp stove. Your husband discovered 15 years ago that this land was perfect for cultivating rare medicinal plants. Climate, soil composition, water supply, it's ideal. He started small, grew it carefully, built this operation from nothing. Frank gestured around the greenhouse. What he created here is worth, well, over $1 million in plants, equipment, and genetic stock. But the real value is in the knowledge, the cultivation techniques, the genetic preservation work. Who were those men? I asked. Frank's expression darkened. Representatives of Harmon Pharmaceutical Ventures. They've been buying up land all through Appalachia, trying to monopolize rare medicinal plant cultivation. Daniel refused to sell to them, no matter how much they offered. That's why he kept everything secret to protect you. Marcus spoke up. Did they kill my dad? The question hung in the air like smoke. Frank chose his words carefully. Daniel died of a heart attack. That's what the coroner ruled. But 2 weeks before he died, someone broke into the warehouse where he worked. Nothing was stolen, but Daniel's locker was forced open. He called me that night, said he felt like he was being followed, started carrying a personal alarm, made me promise that if anything happened to him, I'd make sure you two got the land safely. So they might have. Marcus couldn't finish. I can't prove anything, son, but I can tell you that Harmon Ventures doesn't like the word no, and Daniel told him no for 5 years. I felt rage building in my chest. What do we do? Frank smiled grimly. We fight smart. Daniel documented everything. Every threatening letter, every casual visit from Harmon representatives, every suspicious incident. It's all stored in his safety deposit box at Pineville Bank. We get that evidence, go to the authorities, and make sure his operation is protected legally. Over the next month, Frank helped us do exactly that. We retrieved Daniel's evidence. Years of documentation proving systematic harassment by Harmon Ventures. Federal investigators got involved. Turns out, Harmon had been using intimidation tactics across multiple states to acquire land for their medicinal plant monopoly. Marcus and I made a decision together. We would continue Daniel's work, not for profit alone, but for the conservation mission he'd started. We partnered with the University of Kentucky's botany department, turning the Hectare into a research and preservation site. Marcus, despite being only 16, became the youngest intern in the program, learning advanced cultivation techniques. The harvest Daniel left us, we sold through legitimate channels Frank arranged, generating enough money to secure our future and fund the conservation work. 6 months after discovering the land, Marcus and I stood in the greenhouse on what would have been Daniel's 46th birthday. The plants were thriving, new species had been introduced, and university researchers were using the site for groundbreaking conservation work. Marcus placed his hand on my shoulder. I understand now why Dad kept this secret. He was protecting something bigger than just us. He was protecting something that could help people, medicine, conservation, knowledge. I looked around at the remarkable legacy my husband had built in silence. He was a good man, better than I knew. No, Mom. Marcus shook his head. You knew he was good. You just didn't know he was extraordinary. Today, the Daniel Wright Medicinal Plant Preserve is a recognized conservation site. Marcus starts at the University of Kentucky this fall, studying botany on a full scholarship funded by the Preserve's Educational Trust.